In 2005, an entire desktop, Windows, panel, file manager, the works, booted into something on the order of 200 megabytes of RAM. 20 years later, its replacement is advertised with one word, lightweight, and that lightweight replacement asks for 2 gigabytes before it will reliably show you a cursor. Same word. Roughly 10 times the memory. Nobody announced it. There was no version where the meaning of lightweight officially changed. It just drifted, one release at a time, until the label and the thing it described had nothing to do with each other. And here's the part that should bother you. The obvious explanation, hardware got cheaper, who cares, is the explanation we're going to take apart. Because the machines got faster, yes, but the floor didn't move up because we asked more of the software. It moved up because the software quietly stopped respecting the machine. To see how far we fell, you have to start at the top. Back when lightweight wasn't a marketing tag, it was a discipline. KDE 3.5 came out of an era where every kilobyte cost something, because it did. You were building for machines with 256, maybe 512 megabytes total. No slack. Eat half the memory at idle, and the user has nothing left to actually run. So you measured, boot an old image, run the numbers, and the discipline shows up immediately. 200 used, 300 free, on half a gig of RAM. That number didn't happen by accident. It's what race engineers call mechanical sympathy. You write code that's aware of the machine underneath it. You minimize CPU cycles. You minimize the context switching that thrashes the cache. You don't allocate what you don't need, and you free what you're done with. The 200 is the discipline, made visible. KDE 3 also had an architectural advantage. The whole thing sat on one toolkit. Qt3, top to bottom. File manager, panel, control center, text editor. They all shared the same libraries, loaded once, held in memory once. Deep integration wasn't a buzzword here. It was the reason a cold boot fit inside 200 megabytes. That was lightweight, not a checkbox on a download page. A property you could measure, one the engineers had fought for on purpose. Now watch what happens when the discipline disappears but the marketing word survives. Around 2008, the two giants both jumped off a cliff at the same time. KDE went to version 4, a ground-up rewrite that, in its early releases, was slower and hungrier than the thing it replaced. GNOME went to version 3 and threw out the entire interaction model people had built habits around. Millions of users on modest hardware suddenly had no comfortable home, and into that vacuum stepped Xfce, wearing exactly the right slogan, the lightweight one. The desktop that didn't chase the heavy redesign. Xubuntu, Ubuntu with Xfce on top, became the default recommendation for anyone with an aging laptop. And for a while, it was true. But Xfce didn't live in a vacuum. It lived on top of a stack, and that stack was GTK. Over the next decade, the toolkit underneath moved from GTK2 to GTK3, dragging in new dependencies, new abstraction layers, new background infrastructure with every step. And the pressure to keep moving hasn't stopped. Xfce shipped its 4.20 release at the end of 2024, with early Wayland support bolted on. Another compatibility layer, another set of moving parts, all in the name of keeping up. The desktop on top kept its lean reputation. The foundation underneath it quietly fattened, and the base footprint of a fresh Xubuntu install crept up, past where it started, and eventually past the old KDE 3 number it was supposed to beat. Here's the trap, and it's psychological more than technical. It's what you could call relative performance. On a modern machine, the bloat is invisible. You've got 16 gigabytes, who's counting 600 megabytes at idle? So you accept it. The fast hardware masks the inefficient code. You stop noticing that lightweight became a comparison, lighter than GNOME, instead of a measurement. Lighter than the heaviest option in the room is not the same thing as light. So where does the weight actually go? Because the answer matters. If we don't know where it came from, we can't get back to where we were. Let's open it up. Start with libraries. The old model was shared. One copy of a library lives in memory, and every program that needs it points at the same copy. Efficient by design. And here's the thing. That model was supposed to prevent exactly the problem we're about to describe. For traditional native packages, it mostly still holds. The leak is somewhere else. It's the modern push toward bundled formats. Snap, Flatpak, AppImages that each carry their own dependency chains, so the developer never has to worry about what's installed on your system. Convenient to ship, redundant in memory. You end up with 3 copies of nearly the same code resident at once because 3 programs each brought their own. That's the whole disease in one image. We ship 3 pairs of gloves to perform open heart surgery, because coordinating on one pair was somebody's problem and nobody wanted it. Then there are the demons, background processes that wake up, sit resident, and do quiet work you never asked to watch. A telemetry collector, a package layer like Snapd, mounting and managing its own containerized apps. An update checker, polling. None of these are villains on their own, but add them up and you reach an absurd conclusion. The background services idling on a lightweight 2026 system can consume more RAM, doing nothing visible, than the entire desktop environment did in 2005. You can see them. This is not a theory. It's 2 commands. Run that on a fresh install and scroll. The desktop you can see is a fraction of the total. The rest is infrastructure that exists for the convenience of the people who built it, not for the performance of the person running it. And that's the through line of the whole Decay. Every layer of abstraction added for the developer's comfort is a layer of distance between the software and the silicon. Each one is reasonable by itself. Stacked, they're a system that has forgotten the machine is even there. Let's put numbers to it. Honestly, as ranges, because exact figures depend on your install. A 2005-era lightweight desktop sat on the order of 200 megabytes at idle. A modern Xubuntu, the minimal install, idles somewhere around 500 to 600 megabytes. A full install climbs into the 700 to 800 range, and the team's own recommended spec asks for 2 gigabytes to run several applications comfortably. That number, the comfortable 2 gigabytes, is what matters. Call it the bloat floor, the memory the system holds in reserve just to stay responsive, before you've opened a single thing you care about. In 2005, that floor was a couple hundred megabytes. A modern minimal install already idles at several times that. And once you count a full session, with the apps you actually use open, the floor against that old number has risen by a full order of magnitude. The hardware grew 60-fold. The floor rose to meet it, and then some. And the worst offenders are the new web-integrated components. A system menu, a settings panel, a little widget. Increasingly, these lean on web technology under the hood. Here's the cleanest example you can verify yourself. Connect to a network behind a captive portal, airport Wi-Fi, a hotel login page, and your system spawns a real WebKit rendering engine, the same kind that powers Safari, just to show you a sign-in form. The captive portal handler is, quite literally, a browser your desktop launches on your behalf. And once that becomes normal, once rendering a form means booting a browser engine, a piece of UI whose entire job is to show you 8 icons ends up running on the machinery built to render the entire web. You are paying browser-grade memory to draw a start menu. Which brings us to the question nobody on the download page wants to answer. Who actually pays for this? The standard fix for inefficient software is brutally simple. Demand more hardware. Slow. Buy more RAM. Newer chip. Newer machine. And every time we accept that as the answer, we hand the bill to 2 places. The first is the planet. A laptop that ran fine in 2018 gets labeled too slow. Not because the work changed, but because the software underneath it forgot how to be small, so it gets thrown out. Software bloat is one of the quiet engines of electronic waste, and almost nobody connects the two. The second place we hand the bill is ourselves, our own standards. Because once you accept that lightweight can mean 2 gigabytes, you've accepted that the word means nothing. You've stopped auditing the claim. Ask yourself honestly, when was the last time you ran a memory check on a lightweight install and compared the number to what the label promised? Most of us never have. We read the word and we believed it. And we did this. Not Microsoft, not some faceless vendor. This one is ours, the open source world that prided itself on doing more with less. We let lightweight become a vibe instead of a budget. We stopped checking the number and started trusting the label. So here's the proposal, and it's not nostalgia. Nobody's asking you to run KDE 3.5 in 2026. The ask is to bring back the ethos. Strict memory budgeting as a design constraint, not an afterthought. Treating an unnecessary abstraction as a cost you have to justify, not a convenience you get for free. And community-driven, actually auditing the word lightweight every time a project claims it. Measure the idle. Publish the number. Make the label mean something again. Mechanical sympathy was never about old hardware. It was about respect for the machine and for the person depending on it. And if you think the embedded browser problem stops at a system menu, look at the applications running on top of that desktop. Because the same instinct that turned a start menu into a browser instance turned almost every app you open into one too. Each one quietly shipping an entire rendering engine just to draw a window. That's a memory story big enough for its own audit, and it's the one we're doing next. Every desktop app is secretly a browser, and it's eating your RAM. 200 megabytes once held an entire desktop. The hardware that replaced it is 1,000 times more capable. We spent every bit of that 1,000, and we have less to show for it than we did in 2005.